The bye week is upon us. What are some of the things that the New York Jets should focus on with this extra week to make sure that we take advantage of every opportunity moving forward? What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Talking Jets with Tigo. My name is Tigo, and today I want to talk about what can the New York Jets really focus on and what should they be prioritizing in this bye week to make sure that we set ourselves up for the best opportunities and the best possible situation to try to break the playoff drought. This team is poised and ready to make the playoffs. And there are a couple of things that I think that we can focus on to really, really move that in the right direction. So number one, and what I would make the number one priority for this bye week is extending Bryce Huff. I believe that the player has absolutely deserved the extension for this football team, and this is kind of a 180 from me. Because if you would have talked to me before the season had started and talked about extending Bryce Huff long terms, me and Buffalo Jet fan had multiple arguments about him and talking about, look, he has not shown us the ability to play on first and second down. And while you are absolutely right that he is one of the, if not the most explosive third down pass rusher in the NFL, you cannot give double-digit millions, tens of 11s of 12s of millions of dollars to a player that you can only use on third down. It just doesn't make sense. But this year, he has shown not just a willingness to play on first and second down, but the ability to not be a liability in the run game. You can look at a first and a second or a running situation and be like, you know what? We can play Bryce Huff. He's adjusted his game in such a way that he's not the liability that he was before. He's not struggling in tackling like he did before. He is a sack machine. Don't get it twisted. But he wasn't worth the contract that he was 6 weeks ago. But now I think he absolutely is. If it was up to me, I would give him the Carl Lawson contract and keep what is one of the best, if not the best, edge room in the NFL together. We know that Carl Lawson isn't really contributing to this pass rush at all. His reps should more than likely go to Bryce Huff, and then Bryce Huff's reps should more than likely go to Will McDonald, and the development keeps on going. Jermaine Johnson and Jonathan Franklin Myers have been absolutely dominant for the New York Jets this year. They have been playing out of this world good. JJ is really exploding onto the scene. JFM continues to dominate, which is what he does consistently, and you love to see that. But these other guys in the rotation are absolutely playing phenomenally, and that is a great thing. Now moving on to the second thing that I think this team needs to prioritize, and that is getting healthy. We need to start getting some of our players back ASAP. As much as I loved Craig James and how he played, and Bryce Hall coming up and shutting up a lot of people, including myself, and Michael Carter II, and showing that he can play on the outside if he needs to, we need to start getting players healthy as soon as humanly possible, because this defense is predicated on absolutely phenomenal play, not just from our D-line, but from our secondary. And yes, Bryce Hall, Craig James, Michael Carter, they're all great stories, but Michael Carter should play in the slot where we know he's absolutely dominant. Sauce and DJ on the outside. Let's keep our strongest unit, and the offense needs to start getting some help back on the offensive line. That's the reality of it. Let's just make sure that during this offseason, while we're growing, and during this off time, while we're growing and while we're learning and while we're developing our game still, let's make sure that we're getting healthy. The next thing that I think absolutely needs to be a priority is we need to find some help for the offensive line. And I'm not talking about finding a player to come in and immediately play on the offensive line. I just mean, like, we need depth. We've already lost Elijah Vera Tucker. I think Dwayne Brown is done for the year. I don't think he's ever coming back, if I'm being honest. And I'm kind of okay with that. Mekhi Becton has been absolutely solid for the New York Jets for the first 6 weeks of this season, playing right tackle and left tackle. He has been, in my opinion, our most consistent offensive lineman and has been doing an excellent job. Connor McGovern and Laken Tomlinson are playing. Laken Tomlinson is playing much better than what we saw from Laken Tomlinson last year. He went last year to being one of the worst guards in football. To this year, he's just kind of average. And I'll take average, you know. I would like to get Pro Bowl Laken Tomlinson back, but it doesn't seem like we're going to get that type of player back. But if we can get average guard play, I'm cool with that. Same thing with Connor McGovern. Connor McGovern's average. That's exactly what we expected from Connor McGovern. The reality is that the right side of the offensive line has been banged up incredibly, from Mekhi Becton having to move to the left side and Elijah Vera Tucker having to move to the right tackle and Joe Tippmann having to come in and play right guard and all of these different things. And now we've lost Elijah Vera Tucker for the season. Now it's kind of looking like Joe Tippmann is hurt and he might miss some time. We just need some help. And I'm not even looking for starters. I think I feel relatively comfortable when it comes to playing this team and saying, you know what? Max Mitchell has played relatively well for the New York Jets in the 2 games that we asked him to play. He hasn't really been atrocious or all that bad in the, I think it's 2 or 3 games that we've asked him to play. He's been okay. And the real concern is Wes Schweitzer. Can he play like at all at guard? I feel a little bit more comfortable because Billy Turner can play guard, and when he played guard, he was actually really good at guard. So like that's an option there, but as of right now, we don't have an interior offensive lineman who can snap the ball if Connor McGovern goes down. We don't have an interior offensive lineman if Wes Schweitzer has to play center. Like, we just need help, and go and find that help. I know that we're getting Carter Warren back. He just came off of the IR. But is La'el Collins, is he healthy? Like, why hasn't he been signed? There's something there. I don't know. Find somebody. Go do something. This offensive line unit needs help. It has been absolutely battered and broken. We're down 3 offensive linemen again in back-to-back years. Fix the turf. Moving on to the last kind of point that I have, and that is figure out what's wrong in the red zone. The New York Jets' red zone efficiency has not been good enough, and the New York Jets need to fix that absolutely. And I agree with Coach Saleh and what he's saying. I think that we're so close to things clicking when it comes to this offense and firing on all cylinders. We're not seeing 3rd and out, like 3 and outs consistently anymore. We're not converting on 3rd downs all that much, but like that's a different issue that we can fix. We're getting 1st downs on 1st and 2nd relatively consistently, and we're moving the chains, and we're getting into the red zone, or the gold zone as Hackett likes to call it, and we're just not finishing it. And I think that there's a couple of things doing that. Like, obviously, I think Zach Wilson doesn't feel comfortable with a shorter field and not having all that space to operate the offense. Throws need to become tighter, and we know how scared he is and how he doesn't want to turn over the ball. So I think he's kind of like just like flinching before letting it rip, and I think he needs to loosen up there. Hackett's got to get in his ear and be like, look, don't worry about it. We have one of the best defenses, but we got to be able to get aggressive and score. I think offensive line health is another thing going on there. This is like the 3rd or 4th iteration of the offensive line that the New York Jets are going to have to stroll out there in a couple of weeks if Joe Tippmann isn't healthy yet. And so there's things there, but I think the biggest thing is like, I just don't trust our wide receiver core when it comes to guys not named Garrett Wilson right now. I don't trust our pass catchers to kind of get open in that short area and in a short field that aren't named Garrett Wilson. Allen Lazard's not creating separation. Randall Cobb can't and isn't all that fast anymore. And one of the things that Randall Cobb, and why I kind of supported him being wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, the more I started looking into it, was like, dude, the guy has secure hands, or had secure hands, and he's been a drop machine this year. And I think that the solution has to be give Mecole Hardman, but I think more importantly, give Xavier Gipson a lot of those reps. And from what I was seeing from Connor Rogers and from Zach Rosenblatt and a lot of the guys that are in the team, that seems to be where they wanted to go before Xavier Gipson got hurt and he kind of had to be limited in the amount of snaps that he would play, is that they were kind of giving Randall Cobb's snaps to Xavier Gipson so that when it came down to it, the starting wide receivers would be Garrett Wilson, Allen Lazard, and Xavier Gipson. And that's a group of guys that I think that can get open, because in the red zone, you have 2 50-50 ball catchers in Allen Lazard and in Oh my gosh. And Tyler Conklin. And then you have just your ex wide receiver who's going to do everything, and Garrett Wilson. And then your speedy, quick slot guy who can cut, who's dynamic, and hopefully can be secure and have good hands in Xavier Gibson. And now you partner all of that with what we know is a dominant run game in Breece Hall. And now we've got some things going in the red zone. Whatever the issue is, I'm not a coach. I'm not an offensive coordinator. I'm not any of those things. We need to fix the red zone because, like Dan Orlovsky said on ESPN, if the New York Jets can fix the red zone issues, watch out, because it's not just this defense that's going to be firing on all cylinders, but I think this offense can fire on all cylinders as well. This is the final missing piece of the puzzle, and I think that we're so close to really being a team that other teams need to be scared of, and not just because of our defense, but because of our overall team. Let me know what you guys think the priority should be in this bye week. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, click right here to be subscribed to the Talking Jets with Tigo channel. If you want more Talking Jets with Tigo content, click on this video right here. Thank you so much for hanging out and watching. And last but not least, go Jets.